He knows this is the room? Okay. We're going to bring some Ashkenazim in here.
Oh, no, I don't
Think he's smart?
think so.
Uh-huh. Okay. We are on 11B1. Okay, the last thing that we said, we were trying to, Rava argued on Abaye, as we saw yesterday. And Rava says Rava says that we do not say xera. We do not say a double fence. Morning. Good to see you. Welcome to.
Seen you before? I went to one Fridays.
Yes, maybe I've seen you. Okay.
Oh,
Over. Okay. Nice seeing you. So happy that you're here. Make yourself comfortable. We are on.
I get some water. Okay.
We are on 11B1. And Aaron, right?
Yeah.
This is the place to be. 11B, right? That's my little joke. 11B1. Yud Aleph of a bet. Aaron, where'd you go to high school? Oh, Fred. You went to Israel afterwards? Or straight to Albany? Hey, and you look good. So you made it.
So far. It wasn't an easy day today. It's cold out.
When I say he made it, I don't just mean he made it today. I mean to say he made it as a Jew. That's what I mean to say, Aaron. What can I tell you? I say it the way it is, Aaron. Okay, you're jumping into a very good Gemara. All Gemaras are good. We're at a point regarding Shabbat. We're learning Masechta Shabbat, and we're talking about the rabbis created certain fences for Shabbat that a person should not come to carry on Shabbat, because the rabbis are very concerned, like any other mitzvah, that we have to protect. And the Gemara got into the issue of how far would the rabbis go to protect the specific law of carrying on Shabbat. There's many malachot on Shabbat. There are many things we can't do. We can't write on Shabbat. We can't bake and cook and turn on lights and make fires and all those type of things we can't do on Shabbat. One of the third malachot is you can't carry from a private domain to a public domain on Shabbat. And we'll see more as we go about what's called a public domain, right? Rashi says you have to have 600,000 people in that area. Others say even you don't need 600,000 people. But that's on a Torah level. You can't carry from private to public. Then there are places that aren't, even if you don't have 600,000 people, but the fact that it's a public thoroughfare, at least rabbinically, it will be prohibited to carry from private to public. And those places we can make an Erev. Those places that are rabbinically prohibited to carry, that's where the Erev would come in. Places where biblically you can't carry, the Erev will not help. So now we're having a discussion about, would the rabbis go and make a double gzerah? Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're just giving a little introduction. Today's the new member that came to join us today, and we hope to see him more often. Just bringing him up to date. So it'll be a little review.
Great, great.
And so the Gemara has an argument between Abaye and Rava. How, according to the way Tosfot explains, is would the malacha, the prohibition of carrying, be different than any other malacha, than any other biblical violation that the rabbis would have to go ahead and reinforce and actually sometimes make a double gzera, a double rabbinic. What's a double rabbinic? Generally, the rabbis are there to protect the Torah law. The rabbis generally will not create a rabbinic law to protect another rabbinic law. The rabbis create rabbinic law to protect Torah law, not to protect rabbinic law. Rabbinic law should be listened by itself, but not that I'm going to say don't do this, but you might do that, and that is only prohibited because you might do something else. That would be a double gzera, a ban, a prohibition, a decree on another in order to prevent a different decree. If if both decrees are rabbinic, generally we won't do that. However, Abaye says because carrying is one of those malachot that need extra that's unique, and some say it's unique because people don't give that appreciation for it enough. People are not careful enough, and people don't realize the situation, that they don't realize putting something in your pocket on Shabbat and walking outside is really a prohibition, a biblical prohibition if you go from private to a real public domain. So the rabbis that are going to buy it will actually create a double, sometimes a rabbinic decree to protect another rabbinic decree that will actually protect the Torah law. So a double, we call that a gzera. And yesterday, Abaye brought his proof, and Rava says you can't, that's not a good proof, because Rava said that that's talking about a different situation. And Rava said that case that you brought is talking about regarding maaser. That was a case of a gat, case of a wine press, where there's certain you have a responsibility to take off maaser from your fruits, produce that was grown in the land of Israel. Let's say you have to, on certain produce you have to take off on a Torah level. And let's say wine, grapes, these are things you have to take off maaser. So you have 10% to the Levi from your produce. And the rabbis, and there are the Torah responsibility to take off maaser is once you finish the production of the produce. If you did not yet finish the production, the processing of the produce, you pressed the grapes, but you didn't put it into the pit. You didn't put the wine, did not go yet into the pit where you store it. It's not obligated on a Torah level to take off maaser. You're not responsible yet to take off types. And if you're not responsible to take off types, then technically you could eat that before the obligation of the types kick in. Now, by the way, the Gemara says that in Brachot that the difference between one of the differences between the early generation and the later generations, that the early generations they would bring in the food in the normal way to the house or to the storage. It would in a way that you would be obligated in types. And some of the later generations were looking to get away with not having to give types. They did something in a way that they will not have to, which is not a nice thing. You want to avoid, the system, which shows you that was something negative about the later generation. But getting back to our point, so on a Torah level, the responsibility. Good morning, Emmanuel. On a Torah level, the responsibility to take off types is only when it's finished the process. But even though you didn't finish the processing yet, the rabbi created a rabbinic law to say you cannot have a permanent, you can't have a type. Once the wine leaves the wine press, you have to take off types. Even though it never went into the pit, the wine, and they said you have to take off types as long as it's a more permanent type of drinking. It's called an achilat arayos, permanent. But if it's more temporary, if you're on the press itself, if you're standing on the press itself, that's temporary. But once it leaves the wine press, the wine, that's more of a permanency. It's no longer by the press. And therefore you would have to take off types at that point. And that's how Rava says the similarity to the when it says v'chein begad, that the same way we said you can't stand in public property and bend over to private property to take a drink on Shabbat, because we're afraid the reason for that law is because we're afraid if I bend over, and I'm standing in public property and the item is in private property, if I bend over and pick up the drink in private property, I might move it to my public property. And so the rabbis created a fence. Don't drink unless most of your body and your head is all the way in the other domain. Then it's not common that you're going to move it into the domain where you're standing if most of your body and your head is over into the other domain, right? That's what we said. And to that, the Gemara says, v'chein begat, the same law that we said that you could bend over. You could bend over if you're standing in public, you could bend over into private and pick up the drink. And it's not, as long as your majority of your head and your body is over into the other domain. So in that sense, the Gemara is saying, good morning, Asaf. The Gemara is saying the same law would apply when it comes to the wine in the wine press. Regarding the law, there's a law that says that you can't, regarding if the wine comes out of the wine press, even though it didn't go into the pit, you have to take off types before you drink it. So that's what it was saying. The similarities in that sense, the same law would apply, meaning to say, if I bend over completely my head and my body, the same way if I'm standing on the wine press, I didn't remove the wine from the wine press, that's called temporary drinking. And I could drink wine right, and if I'm just by the wine press, it didn't yet go into the pit, then the wine was not finished, fully processed. I'm having a temporary drinking on the wine press, like a guy going in the field and working in the field, and the Torah allows you to go ahead and eat some of the produce. It's like a wine taste. It's similar to that. So you're in the wine press itself. You could go ahead and take some of the wine. Not only if you're in the wine press, if you're outside the wine press, but most of your body and your head is bent over into the wine press, that's as if you're in the wine press. But if you don't have the majority of your body, but your feet are out, the majority is not in the wine press, then you can. That's called more of a permanent. We consider that like a permanent type of eating or drinking because you're standing outside, and therefore you will not be able to take from the wine unless the majority of your body and your head is over on the wine press. That is the only. That's what the Gemara. That's what it means. V'chein begat. That's what it means. In the wine press has the same law regarding Shabbat, that you can't, the same way that whatever regarding standing in one domain, public, and bending over into private, that we said only if the majority of the body and your head is bent over into the other domain can you drink over there, because we're not afraid you're going to come to carry. So to over here, this law of the wine press is not about afraid of carrying out. Meaning, it's not. That's why it doesn't show that we make a Zera and a Gzeira. The wine press has nothing to do with Carmelit, nothing to do with it. It's the wine press is about what's called a permanent type of what's the drinking that the rabbis allowed you to drink by a wine press, and what's the drinking that you're not allowed to drink. And that's the similarity to Shabbat that that we said. Whatever we said, when you could stand in one place and drink in another place, public, and you're drinking in private, that's the similarity regarding morning, Simon. That's the similarity. It lines up the same result will be regarding if I want to drink in a wine press, if I'm standing outside and drinking inside, and it will be the same type of situation would be as when it comes to the issue of the concern of carrying. But it's not about carrying. It's not about maybe I'm going to come to take it out of the wine press. It's just this is called a temporary type of drinking. If my head and my body is over the wine press, and when my head and body not over the wine press, it's called a more permanent type of drinking. That was what we got up to yesterday in the Gemara, and I elaborate a little bit more than on what we did yesterday. So now the Gemara says, "V'chein Amar Rav Sheshet." Rav Sheshet said also, we are now 11b1. V'chein Amar Rav Sheshet. On the right side, you see Rav Amma. We'll start from Rav Amma v'chein begat. When it says the gat, the wine press, that's in your maaser. That's regarding maaser. It's not returned. V'chein begat and v'chein Amma Rav Sheshet v'chein begat in your maaser regarding taking off the types. It's not. Now comes the Gemara and gives us a little bit. Where is this? Where do we find about this? The laws of maaser and a wine press. Did not. We had general rule. We said shotin. We have a Mishnah in Masra. It says like this: shotin alagat, yayin alagat, shotin alagat. If you buy a wine press and you have some wine there, obviously you got the wine. You already pressed the grapes, and you got the wine over there, Simon. So the first opinion in the Mishnah says that you're allowed to go ahead and drink the wine that's by the wine press. Bein alachamin, morning Mark, bein alatzonin. Whether you diluted the wine with hot water, or whether you diluted the wine with cold water. I presume that the hot water was like is similar to like maybe was a fast way of cooking it. Instead of cooking the wine, maybe you just took a fast route and just diluted it with put some hot water in it. So again, I am not a wine connoisseur, so I can't. Whatever for the taste, maybe for the taste of the wine, for whatever purpose, he diluted the wine. He thinks the wine tastes better when you have it when you have with the hot water. So he went ahead and he diluted the wine with hot water, or he diluted the wine with cold water. So if you diluted the wine with hot water or cold water, you could drink. If you're on the press, so we said you're on the press, it's not considered permanent drinking. Like Adam said, it's like more of a temporary type of, like a wine. You're at the press itself. You don't remove it from the press. You're still there. You're like it's like you're out in the field. The Torah says that if you're a worker, if I'm working for Aaron, if I'm working for Aaron and he has a field, right? The Torah has laws about if I'm picking the fruit from the field, I'm allowed to eat from the fruit when I'm working for you. Just like the Torah says that an animal, but I don't want to compare a person to an animal. I'm not like the society out there, but and we're not animals, we're people, we're humans. Someone I know is very upset when she sees a dog in a baby carriage. When they wheel baby dog, she gets very disgusted by seeing a dog in a baby carriage. A dog does not belong in a baby carriage. It's not a baby. Um, I'm not saying you don't take care of your dog, but it's not a baby. And I think the problem today is people think they use that instead of having children. That becomes their focus in their life. That becomes their baby. But shotin alagat. So you could go ahead and drink in the wine press, whether it's 11 B1. Yeah, B1 on the right side, almost finished, 11 B1. So what we're saying is that there's a Torah law, the same way when your animal works, when it's threshing, there's the grain, it's stepping on it and it's separating parts from the other parts. Torah says you're not allowed to muzzle the animal because the Torah now, whether it's because the Torah has mercy on the animal or it's because the Torah wants us to be sensitive to an animal, and if we're sensitive to an animal, we'll be sensitive to a human being, right? There's a great idea on Shabbat. We cover the challah on Shabbat. Why do we cover the challah on Shabbat? So there's multiple reasons. One reason is the man. We had a double portion of man on. That's why we have two chalot. We have two chalot. They had a double portion of. They came down on Friday of man, and the man had dew on top and dew on the bottom. Therefore, we cover the table on Shabbat. A table is not supposed to be bare. The table you can't eat on a table like that. That table you can't eat on. Why can't? Right, it's a beautiful table. Doesn't have a tablecloth. You need a tablecloth on a table. One reason is for the honor of Shabbat. Another reason is because the man had a later on had a cover underneath and a cover on top. That's why you have to cover your table. But there's another reason why, the more famous reason why we cover the challah is not because of the man, because you don't want to embarrass the challah. Why don't you want to embarrass the challah? Because the general law is that if you have bread and wine in front of you tonight, if you're having a meal, good morning, Mr. Amos. If you're having a meal tonight, if you're having a dinner with wine, what bracha? And you have wine on the table, you're at a wedding. And you have wine on the table and you have bread on the table. You want to go wash, you want to have bread. What bracha do you say? Now, the hamotzi does not cover wine. If you say hamotzi, you still have to make a bracha on the wine. The only way on Shabbat, when you make hamotzi, Friday night or Shabbat day, the reason why you don't say a bracha during the meal of the wine, when you have wine during the meal, and it's a mitzvah to have wine during the meal itself, it shows you're giving honor to the meal. It's only because you drank from the kiddush wine. Because the kiddush wine, the borpei gefen of the kiddush covers the wine that you're going to have during the meal. But tonight, there's no kiddush tonight. So I don't have, if I go ahead and want to say, I want to have wine during my meal, and hamotzi, I want to have wine. What do I got to do? I got to say a bracha on the wine during the, even though I said hamotzi first. And the order is supposed to be, if I have, there are order of brachot. If I have foods in front of me, which food to say bracha before first, so what do you say? Hamotzi is first over wine. I got to say hamotzi, and then I got to go say bracha on the wine. But what happens Friday night? We don't do it that way. Friday night we go ahead and we say Hagefen, and then we say Hamotzi, right? We make Kiddush, which includes the Hagefen. Then we say Hamotzi. So in order not to embarrass the bread, what do? We cover the bread. So because we cover the bread, so the bread doesn't see that we're pushing him to the side. Now the obvious question I once heard from Herschel Schechter. The obvious question is: do you think you're embarrassed? You think the bread's embarrassed? The bread has feelings, right? And he said very beautifully, it's to teach us sensitivity. If we're going to be sensitive to the bread, then if we have treat morning Nathan, we'll be sensitive to the bread. How much more so we'll be sensitive to what? People. And I think it's also a great thing because Friday night, from Shabbat, Shalom Bayit, you got to make sure you act properly on top of your game during the meal. You treat your wife properly. You say everything properly with the members at the meal. People don't crack a joke that's inappropriate, insulting, or people. Sometimes we have people at a meal and they walk and they're very insulted. Something went on. What bothered you? What did someone say? They didn't mean it, whatever. But people get insulted. People have to be extra sensitive. And maybe that's good lesson starting at the Friday night. So getting back to our Gemara, so the Gemara he says that this is called a temporary eating. So you could go ahead and you could drink wine while you buy the wine press without tithing the wine first. You could drink it whether it's diluted with cold water or hot water. And we all know the wines back then were very, very strong. They needed a nice amount of water, a nice amount of to dilute it to be able to really drink it. So you could drink it without taking off the types, whether it's diluted with hot or cold water. Upatur, and you do not have to take off any maser at that point. Divrei Meir, you do not have to take off any maser as long as you're drinking it by the wine press itself. Now, Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok mechayev. Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok holds once the wine has been diluted with water, doesn't make a difference. Cold water, hot water, that's already considered. Now, if you're drinking, that's already considered more of a permanent drinking, because the wine is already. Yeah, it's true. You did not put it down into the pit. You did not store it in the pit, but it's ready. The wine is ready to roll. It's totally edible now, or whatever the right word is. You could drink it now. It's diluted, and now you're drinking. He looks at more. It's not such a real temporary type of drinking that makes it more permanent, and therefore you are not allowed to drink even by the wine press. This is the first opinion that we found until now that forbids you to drink by the wine press itself. You could be standing on the wine press totally. You can't drink unless you take off the masa first. So that should be a rabbinic law that even though you didn't finish putting it into the pit yet, but at least rabbinically, the rabbis will say you have to go ahead and take off the tithes at that. The tithe, right. Exactly. Permanent, temporary drinking. Right. Now, right. Right. Exactly. And now the question is, what's called temporary, what's called permanent? Exactly. That's we have a three-way argument in the Gemara. And Rabbi Elazar Reb Tzadok. Now, Rabbi Elazar now, so he's more strict. He says Yechayav. And Chachamim Omrim, and the Chachamim say the following: Al Hachamin, the wine that they make a distinction if the wine was diluted with hot water or the wine was diluted with what? Cold water. But the wine that was diluted with hot water, you will not pour that back with the other wines. Morning. Why not? Because it would ruin once it got heat on the wine, on this wine. If you have left over, you will not. This hot wine that if you drink, you will not pour it back. The fact that you will not pour it back, that makes it more permanent type of drinking, and therefore you will have to take off tithes. The wine that was diluted with hot water, chayav. You have to go ahead and separate the tithes before you go ahead and drink. However, in the cold water, if it was diluted with cold water, patur, you are exempt from separating the tithes Bipnei shehu malzir et amoteh. You would return whatever's left. The fact that you return whatever's left, that's not called more of a permanent drinking. So that's the three-way machloket. And being that's the case, so when the Mishnah stated al hachamin, the Mishnah stated bechein begat, the law by the wine press, which would mean if you're standing on the wine press itself, you'll be able to drink. If your head, and not only you're standing on the wine press itself, the Mishnah states, even according to Rava, even if you're not standing on the wine press itself, but if your head, what did you say? Right, he doesn't make it sounds like it doesn't make it right. He didn't talk about the volume. It sounds like even if you have more than a revi'it, it's all about where are you and whether it's hot or cold, different opinions. And it will come out not only if you're on the wine press itself, with the rabbi, like the mayor allowed you to go ahead and drink on the wine press itself, doesn't make a difference hot or cold, even if you're not actually on the wine press, but the majority of your body and your head is bent over onto the wine press, that's also considered, it's also fine. It's like the wine press itself. If you're just a little bit over, not good enough. That's like outside. Meaning everybody agrees, Mark. Everybody agrees if you took the wine outside the wine press, that's permanent. That's called a permanent type of drinking. Here, but now here we're talking about you didn't take it out, but your feet are outside. If your head and your body and most of your body are inside the wine press, that's also considered you're in the wine press. That's what the Gemara is saying. So therefore, that Mishnah could go according to a mayor, and also some say, Morning David, that it all could go according to the Chachamim if the Mishnah is talking about cold water. The Mishnah is talking about cold, because cold, since you would return it, what's left over, that's called a temporary type of drinking. Okay, now we're turning the page. We're getting back to our earlier discussion of whether you would make a double gzeira, a decree on a decree regarding protecting the Torah violation of carrying from private to public. So now comes the Gemara to address this question, to see who's right. Is Abaye right or Rava right? By the way, the general rule is whenever there's an argument in the Gemara, in the Bavli, in the Shas, between Abaye and Rava, Rava is the law follows Rava, except there's something called a Yal Kagam. Yal Kagam is the acronyms. Good morning. Yal Yud stands for one halacha, like Yir Shlomidat. The Ayin, these are like 6 cases in the whole Gemara, and that goes like Abaye. By the way, the Rab Mashkiach, Michal Berenbaum, who worked together with Moshe Feinstein in the yeshiva, and I got smicha through him and Reb David Feinstein. When he would test the guys for smicha, he said it's not enough that you learn certain sections for smicha. You have to know general rules of the Gemara. So he would ask the guys, what are the 6, or what is exactly? He felt it's important for a rabbi wanting to be a well-rounded rabbi, have more knowledge, have a broader knowledge. That's he had like a yeah, but so they have other knowledge. Again, in the yeshiva world, not everyone has smicha, correct? But it's not as popular as it used to be, because smicha is generally used. If you want to be a rabbi of a synagogue, you have to, even in all communities, they have to have smicha. If you don't want what? Okay, maybe more, but it could be not. Okay, but hopefully he's learned many years in yeshiva, which many. But a lot of them they've done. I hope they've done their work, that they've been able to. Usually these guys in the yeshiva that become rabbis today, they've put in much more time than the people in the past who gotten smicha. But you learn for many years. What?
Not more than you.
Okay. Okay. Let's see the Gemara. Good to see everybody. He doesn't need smicha, but they don't need.
Your kids should go to Ateret, your kids should go here, you should do that.
No,
they're not 28 years old. I don't know where
but to answer a halacha question, he needs to have spent time. Obviously, he spent time learning under rabbis. You know what I mean? If he would not, if he, an independent scholar is not, he never learned by somebody. But usually those people, all those people that we're talking about, money rabbi, they have spent time under rabbis and they have tutelage and so even if they did not actually get an actual smicha, but they got a lot of experience. Yes, yes, thanks. I don't think if he, as long as he feels he has a source and that it's clear cut to him, if he doesn't have it, I think he should be able to answer that question. You know what I'm saying? Okay, lo yetzeh chai b'machto. So the Gemara says we have in the Mishnah stated, if you're a tailor cannot go out with his needle samuch lechashecha, close to dark. He can't go out with his needle. And the Gemara is going to discuss where is this needle located? Is it holding in his hand? The needle is stuck into his garment. He cannot go out with a needle close to dark. What's the problem? Now, close to dark usually means about a half hour before sunset, because close to generally samuch is like a half hour before. So if you're half hour before sunset, he can't go out with his needle. Why? Shema yishkach v'yetzeh. We're afraid he's gonna forget, and he's gonna leave his needle. He's gonna carry the needle on Shabbat. If you're so close to Shabbat, you have your needle on you, right, Simon? He might come to actually carry it on Shabbat. If I would, if that's what the Gemara is going to do, if technically now, if it's a normal way for the Gemara is going to discuss, is that a normal way to carry? If I put a needle like this, is that a normal way to carry a needle, or is that not meaning? Right. So for sure, at least rabbinically, even if it's not the normal way to carry, let's say a person puts a key in his sock on Shabbat, and he walks out in the street to public property. So it could be it's not the normal thing. Maybe people carry wear guns that way, but I don't know that that's called the normal way of carrying. So, so on a Torah level, it's not considered. It's called a shinui. It's not the normal way of carrying. But at least on a rabbinic level, I cannot go ahead and say, okay, I got a simple way to do it. I just put something in my sock. No, that's a no. I can't do that. That would be at least rabbinically prohibited, right? Rabbinically, if it's not normal to carry things in socks. So a needle in the garment will either be normal way of carrying. It will be a normal way of carrying. That will be a biblical violation, or a needle in your garment might not be the normal way to carry. Maybe you usually carry a needle in your hand, but sometimes you might put it like that. So that's what the Gemara exactly is going to discuss. Mark's point. Do we say that for a tailor that is the norm? You ever see some people they put a pencil in the air? And there's some people. Maybe if you're a mathematician, maybe you walk out. You will have a pencil. Maybe it's more of a math in the old days when before computers. They would have you have a pencil in your ear. There's certain people that will see there's certain forms of advertisements. That's how they would advertise. They would wear certain things to show advertisement, but it might not be. Is that called the norm? Right, wear pin is jewelry. That's not carrying. That's beautifying. That's not. But if I want to go ahead, let's say if a person says I want to put a key, I'm going to put a key. I'm going to put a string. I'm going to wear a key. I'm going to carry a key with me. That's a problem. What's the problem? Because if I take the key, I'm carrying the key. The key is not a piece of jewelry. The key is the key. So if I go ahead and I put a string, there are some people that think, Rabbi, I'm not carrying the key. I'm just wearing the key. Now, if the right, so on the belt, so if you use a key, so what we do in our neighbor, the Lower East Side, we don't use Eruv on the Lower East Side, but Moshe Feinstein said no Eruv. So what we do is some people make a key, it's a tie clip. They make a key and they make it nice out of like gold plated, and it's used as it holds the tie. It has a purpose. Or they take a key. They call it a Shabbat belt. What's a Shabbat belt? They most probably should sell it in Brooklyn. That the key becomes, if I could, it becomes this part. So it's used as, it's not,
Can't go through the hole.
no, it's made in a way that this becomes like a make believe this is a key. So now it's serving. It's not just, I'm not carrying the key. It's part of the belt. And that's how the Shabbat belt works. The Shabbat belt is that the key comes in is like this, becomes, Manuel, how do you like that?
Can't put his key in his pocket.
And Shabbat, not in a place that there's no Eruv. No, Manuel, again, Manuel, Manuel. No, unless there's an Eruv, no. You can't.
What about where?
Again, only if there's an Eruv in Manuel. If there's no Eruv, you can't put. We can't. If there's no Eruv, you can't go ahead and put anything in your pocket. You can't put a tissue in your pocket if there's no Eruv. You go out of town. You go out of town, right? If you go out of town, there's no Eruv out of it. Can't take a water bottle. Can't carry. Okay.
Wild.
That by the way, you know, Emmanuel, in a place where there's no. Okay, so Emmanuel, exactly. You know why? Masechta Shabbat discusses carrying. That's the first thing on the table. So why is this the first thing? There's 39 malachot on Shabbat. Why is this the first thing on the table, Emmanuel?
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. But you want the first thing you answered the question. Why is this the first thing that the Masechta Shabbat discusses carrying? Because this was probably the thing that's the hardest thing for people to understand. And therefore, even Abaye says we might even make a double fence on a fence. And Tosfos says, this is the only out of all 39 prohibited acts. This is the only one that we're going to make a double fence according to Abaye. Rabbi says you have to check your. You have to check your. You have to check your rabbi. You have to find out from your rabbi, whoever your rabbi is. But the bottom line is, Shabbat, this idea of carrying is a big deal that people are not so accustomed to understanding, and therefore that's what the Gemara has to discuss. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day and a beautiful day. What a beautiful crowd! I want to thank everyone for joining in. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. You see how everybody is. It's all right. That's why we're here.
I agree.
That's why it's hard. It's an act of 39 malachot on Shabbat. The people, that's the hardest out of all the malachot. You hit on the nail, man. This is the hardest one to understand because I'm carrying something from a private domain to a public domain with a purpose to being there.
It's like I didn't see the bottle carrying is like
Right. That's why we're discussing it. Right. How do you like that moment? You like that line? How do you like it? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah. You came to Hanukkah. Yeah.